You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life advice, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We could turn this into Celebrity Corner, but I don't know that we want to do that. I think people do like the life advice thing, but we've gotten so many celebrity encounters that it's great and they're hilarious. And a bunch of us have read them and talked about them a little bit here and there. But some of them also, like, I don't want to make people look bad if it's in their one moment of, you never know. Like, you could meet the person.
Like the celebrity, you're saying? Like if they were a dick?
Yeah. And like, look, it's not like I don't believe the email. If the person was a dick to you and you're writing the experience, that's totally fine. But I also know, like, you may have just caught that guy on the wrong day. And some of these people are so famous that, sometimes it's a nice exercise to put yourself in their shoes, realizing, but so many of the stories are great. Most of them are very positive. I just don't know if we turn it in Celebrity Corner once a week. I mean, in a weird, fucked up way, we probably could, but I definitely am sensitive to, it's not like I don't know most of the people that we're emailing about. I don't really want to call anybody out. There's some of the stories are funny as hell, but they also at times, like, they just don't seem fair to the person unless the person's just a perpetual asshole. Then if I were, knowing me, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, no, I met this guy. He sucks. Let's do the email. But
this is partially my fault probably though, because I did ask for, but I specifically asked for people's celebrity encounters in which they then hung out with the person. Not like just that you met and he was cool for 5 minutes, like that you went out like to the bar or like he invited you to like a barbecue the next day. Like, I don't, like, there needs to be like a next level to other than just like I met this guy and he was cool or he was a dick. So if you have a story where it's like, hey, I met, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr., right? We partied for like 3 straight days in Vegas. That's the story I want to know. Not that like, hey, I met Robert Downey Jr. in an airport, said, hey, I'm a big fan, took a selfie and walked away.
Okay. All right. That's good. So we had a bunch of people with what was the line? There ain't no Craig in O-Town, bitch. Was that it? Was it bitch?
Something like that. Yeah.
Somebody was suggesting we need to make t-shirts. Let me double check if that's the actual line. So we had a couple people say
for the dudes too. We got for the dudes t-shirts.
Taking it for the dudes. And, that was Kyle. He can do that line on his own sideline. There was actually a guy that emailed in and Kyle sent it to me who was upset. Was like, that was uncool what you did to Nick Carter. And I'm like, you know what? In the grand scheme of thing, that wasn't Nick Carter probably didn't even remember. He doesn't care. Yeah. And then we had some other people saying there's no way that Nick Carter would say, if I remember Craig loves Jaeger bombs. And guys were upset that they didn't think that was potentially true. But the guy that originally sent in the email said that it's been the best because they had 50 people listen to this thing, which may seem like a high number, but whatever. Thanks for the story. I love the story. And the fact that let me double check what that quote is. But
I was trying to look to see if there was another Craig, like, is there a Craig in another boy band? Because maybe he was thinking of like 98 Degrees or something. And he was like, I don't know, O-Town, sure, dude. Like,
no, I think they were. Yeah, I just think he went with Craig. Because then he sent in a follow email saying, thanks for reading that whole thing. And apparently they had told one of the girls in the VIP section, like, hey, this is what we did. And she was like, this is hilarious, and didn't tell on them. But then she also was like, there's no Craig in O-Town. And they were like, all right. So I don't know if we can get somebody on from O-Town, although I don't know what that would solve. So actually, no. You know what? Like, did any of you guys, Craig thrown out?
Let's get Aaron Carter on, see if he remembers.
It would have been an all-time comeback to the bouncer who was like, there ain't no Craig in O-Town. I keep saying bitch because I think that's what it was, but let me double check what it was. Oh, bitch, there ain't no Craig in O-Town.
All right. Yeah, that'll work. There you go.
You know what would have been great is if the emailer had said, or the guy that gets called out on it just goes, yeah, but I originally was in O-Town and my name is Craig. And we broke up over creative differences.
Trying to do my own solo thing now, so help brother out.
Okay. There was one with Cannell that went bad. I don't know. There's one here. All right. There's a Chris Long one.
Wait, I kind of want to hear the Cannell one. Because I feel like Danny's always nice to people like that. Danny likes the attention.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised. Danny.
Also, it was
Danny,
like some
even
SEC guy. Who knows?
Well, yeah, that's also true too. Like if I were an SEC guy, I don't know that I'd be like all fired up about him. Okay, all right. Let's get to a couple life advice. We could just bang these out here. All right, sliding glass door installation. 6 foot. Weight fluctuates 205, 215, depending on drinking habits and how healthy I choose to eat that particular month. My wife and I recently decided to bite the bullet and purchase our first home in Idaho. The whole process went surprisingly smoothly overall, and we just received the keys this week. Congrats. Great feeling. The house is a 1924 bungalow, 1,900 square feet with finished basement, quarter-acre lot. The inspection came back fairly clean. The only major thing that requires immediate attention is an old sliding glass door that leads from the master bedroom to the back patio. The door works, but is a big eyesore that needs to be replaced ASAP. My wife wants to purchase a high-end door. I am fine with this and have it professionally installed. I am questioning this. Background on myself. I grew up in a small farm and have ample experience doing outdoor work like mending fences, fixing pipes, branch maintenance. I have no experience with windows and will admit that installing a sliding glass door on my own feels like a potentially daunting project. As a person with extensive window experience, I guess he's talking about me. I wouldn't say I've hung windows. So this look, let's I'm gonna clarify exact. Yes, I have worked on this stuff, but the reason I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you has to do with whether or not my work is extensive with window installation. All right. Would you recommend burning the $1 to $2 grand on a professional installation, or do you think I should try and impress the wife by tackling installation with a buddy of mine who's a little handier than me, but not as handy as he thinks he is? He recently installed a paver patio in his backyard that is probably now sloped at 5%. Thanks for your consideration. All right. Hanging windows is a lot different than finishing a window. All right. And in this case, you're going to have to do the finish work to a level that is acceptable. And I was never allowed to do the finish work because everybody knew I didn't have the patience for it. And it's truly like it's an art. Like it's a learned skill. You have to have the patience. You know, measure twice, cut once thing. And if you're just off on that shit a little bit, you're just going to be terrible with it. There's also going to be, if you're talking about a 1924 house, the demo is easy. And as I said, hanging the window, if the framer's worth a shit, is really easy. You could just tack them in, and then you're out of there as the framing crew. Although some framing crews would argue, which I remember a couple times at a job site, it was like, no, the framing was for the framing. It wasn't to do doors and windows. And it was like, whoa, dude, back up. Some framers will agree with me. Some framers will disagree. It all should be worked out on the price anyway. But hanging the window is not that hard. Trimming it is really fucking hard. So I don't doubt with your handy background that you could take out the old door. I'm a little worried about what the framing will be around it. And if we're talking 1924, we're talking almost 100 years. So I'm going to guess the specs for it. I don't know if you already have it measured out and there's something at Lowe's or Home Depot that you can go ahead and it's going to be, sized right and you're good to go. Or you may have to build out more framing around it, which is a little daunting because then you're working off the old framework. So that could be a little scary. But the biggest thing with all of this, and the reason I tell you probably just bite the bullet and pay somebody, is even if you get to that point and then you get it tacked in and you're good to go, you mentioned that you've been handy on a farm. Most of that stuff is not delicate, okay? Most of that is not to an eighth of an inch. This is bush fixing, I'd imagine, most of your background, like a wrench and a screw, and you bend it over and it's fixed because it's a farm. This isn't technical. I remember when somebody was teaching me on the miter saw, like different cuts and how you would make it work. And you actually don't want to be at exactly 45 degrees. You want to be a little off on both sides of the cut so that when you tack it in together on the trim work, it actually fits better than just a straight fan. I was like, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. A little trick. All right. Some of you that have done trim work were like, hey, that's not that interesting, not that insightful. That wasn't for you. It was for the other people. My guess is going to be that you've never had to be delicate or precise enough to do that kind of thing. So, maybe you knock it out yourself, get it leveled. If it's an entryway to the outside, as you're saying, in your master, like that can get a little tricky with how the outside trim flushes with whatever the outdoor, whether it's a patio or a deck. I mean, that's a little dicey as well because you don't want to fuck that up. The leveling part of it, and then it's like leveling to your site or leveling to the building. Again, an older building is something you have to work out. Usually nothing that a couple shims can't fix. But the actual trim work part of it You have to know what you're doing to make it look good, and you're going to be living in this room for a long time. And I'm telling you, if you fuck it up and your cuts suck and you don't even really understand the design part of trim work, it's going to look like shit, and your wife's going to remind you, all the time.
So I bought a house a couple years ago, and we bought it with the intent of, like, fixing some things. Like, it was definitely outdated. It was in 1960. It had terrible bathroom, kitchen needed to be fully redone. Now, my dad is plumbing, heating, HVAC guy. Like, he is Mr. Fix It.
Stud.
So I have him. Yeah, he's helped Russillo on some things. Like, he's incredible. So, we did some things ourselves. We did some things and left some things to the professionals. I'm not going to say the stuff that we've done ourselves is awesome, but I also am, like, okay with that because, we want to sell the house, and this isn't like our forever house or whatever. If this is the house that you want to be in forever and you're not going to do, like, a great job, and it's going to bother your wife, or it's even going to bother you if it's not perfect, man, I would just recommend having a professional do it. Like, if it's one thing like painting or stuff that's not super technical. I mean, here's the thing, Ryan. You said, like, he could always try. Could he at least, like, try it, and if he fucks it up, like, have somebody else pay for it to fix it? Or is he, like, fucking up to the point where, like, it would cost him more money in the long run?
I think if they want to take a shot at it, take out the old window. But being an older house scares me a little bit, that you may run into something you don't want to do. And then, like, the worst thing you can do on framing something out is, like, if your framers are lazy and not everything's to square, like, it just fucks up everything else along the line. Whenever you're building a house, if the foundation isn't right, that means you're going to have to compensate somewhere with the framing. Then if the framing isn't right, then the rest, then when you start getting done towards you're doing some of the real installs, and everybody's motherfucking them the step behind them. But I mean, it was kind of part of it. And when you had the guys that just didn't make sure their lines were right and all this different stuff, it just adds up a little bit later on. So now we're talking about a house that was built 100 years ago. I'm a little worried for you. I don't doubt that with your background, you couldn't knock. I mean, demo's fucking easy. Everybody can do demo. And that you could even, with the right size deal, make sure it's ready. But I just think that trim work, if you've never had any experience with it, you're going to fuck it up. You're going to fuck it up. So yeah, go ahead. Start the process, and maybe even, what do you have? Does your handyman guy have the saw? Do you know what the right wood to use? Do you know the right finish nails? Do you understand how to finish it properly? Like, there's a little bit more complicated than just slapping a board across the fucking exposed area and then down the sides. And then the threshold on top of that, like getting the threshold even with the entry without stubbing your foot or having it fucking wrong. Like, it's a little bit more complicated than people think.
Yeah, and I wouldn't really mess around with windows either. I just that should be done right. And, like, because if you come into our house, like, there's some places where the caulking's not perfect. Like, the floor tiles that are, like, stick on in the bathroom, like, aren't, like, perfectly done. But again, it's stuff that I'm gonna overlook because I'm looking to sell the house. I don't really care. But if this is your house that you're gonna be in for a while, and I just know it's going to bother you long term, and I would just say have it done right.
Okay, let's do one more life advice here. 6'4", 220, mid-30s. All right. Currently in the process of applying for a fairly sizable commercial loan. All right. We'll leave out the dollar amount. He includes it, but I don't know. We're talking a big deal here. For new business, and have been in close contact with the bank. The other night, while my wife and I were getting ready for bed, I was already in bed, and she asked, "Hey, have you seen my phone? I can't find it." I said, "No, but I'll call it." I called her phone, and she heard it buzzing on the bathroom counter and grabbed it, at which point I hung up on the call and put my phone down on the nightstand. However, apparently, as I was setting it down, I accidentally touched the screen and called the next person on my call log, the loan officer. My wife then gets into bed. We proceed to end the evening with some marriage-strengthening activities. Afterwards, she looks down and sees my phone on the nightstand and says, "Wait, who is that calling?" I look, and there's an 8-minute, "Don't act like you're not impressed," he includes in the email. I look, and there's an 8-minute voicemail recording for this loan officer. We aren't, like, overly loud, but the typical romp in the sax sounds. There's some playful talk about it. And at the end, we're all recorded. Yeah, that's what he's saying. We're all recorded for this guy to potentially hear. My questions are: one, so basically this guy had sex with his wife for 8 minutes, and it was all recorded on a voicemail for the loan officer, if you're not able to pay attention. Okay, options. Yeah. He says, do I say anything about it at all? I.e., hey, sorry about the pocket dial, man, or just ignore that voicemail? Or do I pretend it never happened at all, or that I never realized it? Two, what are the odds he actually listens to or at least scrolls through? I know I've gotten pocket dialed. Sometimes I sample it just for the fun of figuring out where they are or what they're doing, but also would definitely not sit there and listen to an 8-minute voicemail. 3, assuming he does listen to it for even a portion of it, figure out what's happening. Does this make me more or less likely to be approved for the loan? I think what's going to happen here is a lot of people are going to say this. They're going to say, oh, nobody listens to voicemails anymore. Don't even worry about it. And that is true. I almost never listen to them unless it's something like business related where I know I'm waiting on a certain call. If it's a friend, I don't listen to it, whatever. So that's kind of my point, is for those of you saying don't say anything because nobody listens to voicemails anymore, this guy's a loan officer. He listens to voicemails, and he's definitely going to listen to a voicemail from a guy that he's close to doing a big deal with. So that option is off the table. He's listened to this, okay? He has. Agreement, Cerruti? You have a look on your face right now.
No, you're right. I came at this from a different angle because I would have said you call him immediately and say, hey, sorry for the butt dial. And then he wouldn't listen to it. But if you didn't respond to him right away or nip it in the butt right away, there's a good chance he took a peek and it probably wasn't great.
Right. He definitely listened to it because that's his job to listen to it. You said there's a little playful talk. Maybe he didn't make it to the end. If you get a little bit more vocal at the end, and then, you're asking.
I was wondering what, because like on your phone now, like it'll like transcribe what it is. And I never listen. I always just kind of like try to read it. And if it makes sense, I kind of get the gist of the voicemail. I wonder what if there is any transcription, what it is. Just a bunch of, oh, yes, I don't know.
The best thing you can do is hope that as it was a slow build, he's just going to hear ruffling and it's not going to make any sense for 20, 30 seconds. And then he's probably going to hang up because he's going to be like, oh, this guy pocket dialed me. It doesn't matter. Unless you are from second one, ointments and robes guy. I don't know if you are, but if you are from second one, then whatever. Then
if they're a big foreplay couple, then there's probably going to be some exchanging of words.
But even then, it's not going to be the first. It's likely not going to be within the first however many seconds.
Well, let's break this down then. Okay, so somebody accidentally.
How do you hook up, Cerruti?
Well, yeah, just from personal experience. Phone's on the counter, and then you immediately start figuring stuff out. Clothes come off. And, then there's like a little bit of foreplay. I don't know that that's that loud. And you're right, 30 seconds. Like if he's going to listen to 30 seconds, that's fast. The most he's going to listen to. There's probably not going to be a lot in there unless you're like role playing behind the scene or something, or it gets real weird, or it was like heat of the moment. Like, let's get into it immediately. I actually think you got a pretty big buffer where there's going to be nothing. And I'll be like, oh, this is just stupid. And I won't listen to it. But I also think, do you think that if he heard it, he would bring it up? The loan officer? Or is he just not saying anything?
No, that's where you kind of win. It's so awkward that if you never bring it up, he can't.
Yeah, he's not going to be like, dude, what was going on the other night? What's up? And I don't think it hurts your chances at all of getting a loan.
The role play thing would be busted. It'd be like, hello, Mr. Draper. I'm your new secretary. You're just like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, but now let's not forget, too, some people are fucking weird.
Some people are prudes.
Some people... No, I mean on the other way. Some people are fucking weird, and maybe that guy's listened to it 7 times. We don't know that, but he can't address it first. I mean, the only way, like, there's a couple ways that it works for you if he's listened to the whole thing. Does he drive a Camaro? Does he ever said they don't make him like Bon Jovi anymore? Mm-hmm. Has he done, like, what's his deal? What do you know about him? I think the best play is understand that he's listened to some of it, probably not most of it, or enough for it to be weird. Although there are people that, oh my God, this is amazing. He may have sent it to somebody because there's that group. I think that's a smaller group. I think most people would like to be efficient with their time. And when they don't hear anything for the first 30 seconds, they're like, all right, whatever. I think if your credit's in the right place and you have the right people signing off on it, I mean, he wants to close the loan. He's a loan officer. These guys don't want to turn deals down. So if you were always going to be good on this the rest of the way, I don't think he's going to cost himself money because he heard you have sex with your wife. That sounds fucking crazy out loud. So that's my ruling on this.
And there's also really nothing that can, even if it does get out there somehow, like this guy's super shady and he leaks this to like Reddit or something, no one's going to know it's you. I mean, unless you guys are saying full names on the tape during sex. Like, I don't think that's,
yeah.
I don't think that's,
I don't think a lot of people do.
Like chances are, again, we don't know. Maybe they.
I love you, Glenn
weird.
Jacobs.
Yeah. Chances are,
I mean? Like,
it's actually kind of probably a pretty boring audio recording. Like, it's probably not that intense.
I don't know. Let's take a look. He was 6'4", 220.
But yeah, you never know. Maybe they get really into it. Shout out to you. 8 minutes. It's is what it is.
Yeah, I think you're good on the loan. Remember, loan guys.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Right.
What's he gonna say? Like, no, we don't give loan to people who have sex. Like, okay. What? If anything, I'd be like, all right, this guy's normal.
Now I wish that does. Well, no, I don't want this guy to not get his business loan, fairly sizable. But I would love, like, hey man, I got turned down. He follows up with this. He said to my face, we don't give loans to people that have sex, sir.
Yeah, it could just be a huge prude, you know.
There you go.
Bummer. And then in that case, then you move on. Somebody else will give it to you. It's fine. If you, at the end of the day, if your credit and money situation is fine, you can go to another place and you'll be all right.
Yeah, right. You just go into the next bank, be like, do you approve people that have sex? You do? Okay, great.
Yeah, real quick. First question. Yeah.
All right. lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We have a massive, massive pod for you on Friday. It's going to release hopefully overnight Thursday. It's the Quarterback Podcast. The latest news and notes on the offseason, a look ahead to the draft, and 2 coaches that are working with potential first-round picks. So we're fired up for this, putting the whole thing together. I'll be out Thursday night into Friday. Please subscribe. Make sure you get it.